Let's welcome to the show retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General David Deptula, and from the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, Senior Advisor Richard Goldberg. First to you, Richard, what do you want to hear from the president tonight? He speaks in just a few hours.
Well, I want to hear him say the words that he didn't say when he was in Israel yesterday, and that is Iran is complicit, Iran is accountable, and we are not going to hesitate to use military force if they attack U.S. personnel, U.S. military bases, which they are doing right now. I think the bottom line is here, if the president thought going to Israel was going to restore deterrence against Iran, it did not work. He did not name Iran in Israel. The Iranians are looking at the board, and they're looking at cash still flowing from the Biden administration to Iran. They're looking at the UN missile embargo expiring yesterday, and they think they have a free hand. We need to respond to attacks on U.S. military bases and personnel in order to restore deterrence.
So, General, what Richard just said, the criticism is growing that the president is effectively funding both sides of the war, that basically he wants to give $100 million in aid to Gaza. But Hamas runs Gaza. Hamas is a terror group. Your response?
Yeah, I think we have to be extraordinarily careful, Liz, in also that the United States doesn't get played like a fiddle, as it has been by Iran over the last several years. Certainly, folks are concerned with the humanitarian issues at play, but at the same time, as you've alluded to earlier, and people have seen over the past couple of days, Hamas controls the infrastructure and distribution of goods and services inside Gaza. So we have to be realistic in the context about what is actually going to happen with that money and where the funds are going to go. The fact of the matter is money's fungible. So as money has flowed into Gaza in the past, Hamas has taken that money and applied it to taking away infrastructure, destroying water pipes, and taking them out and building them into missiles to use against Israel. So it's an extraordinarily challenging situation, but we have to go into this with our eyes wide open.
You know, to what the general just said, Richard, the White House has yet to refreeze the $6 billion in that hostage swap deal with Iran. Yeah, we know the sanctions on individuals and entities related to Iran's missiles and conventional arms, but, you know, now they're talking about easing up on sanctions for Venezuela. Let's show the White House's policy mistakes. This is what foreign policy pros are calling out as blunders by this Biden White House, blunders of appeasement. What do you think, Richard?
Well, you look at all of those things. We talk about $6 billion. There's another $10 billion we're not asking questions about that the Biden administration made available to Iran earlier in the summer. That money is sitting in Oman today. You talk about Venezuela sanctions. Venezuela and the IRGC have a close cooperation. So if you're lifting sanctions on Venezuela, you're lifting sanctions on Iran. They're all tied together. And if you're going to let the UN missile embargo just fall away when you could stop it by triggering the snapback of UN sanctions, Iran looks at that and says, well, you're still in an appeasement posture. And that means they can run the board through the region.
General, you got 10 seconds. Wrap it up.
Well, Richard's spot on. I'd also suggest to you that this is in large part an information war, and we need to be extraordinarily careful, and our government needs to highlight the disinformation, the malign disinformation that's being perpetrated throughout the media.
Got it. Lieutenant General David Deptula and Richard Goldberg, thank you for joining us tonight, gentlemen.